The stairs there is always the who goes up, who goes down. I've only fallen a couple times. Nice to have you all back. It's 10 years now we've been doing this. So this is the 10th anniversary of this event. And I'm proud to say that the news just keeps getting better. So that's always fun. I don't spend all my life in North Carolina. I do tech reports in states where the bars don't go the right directions a lot. And everybody wants to know why. And then we bring them over and introduce them to Brooks and tell you why. North Carolina continues to deepen its tech sector. So today I'm going to try to highlight 3 or 4 takeaways as we show you some of the slides. One of them is that the knowledge base percentage in the state, the part of our economy that's built around knowledge, continues to go up. It is part of an economy that has been doing really well in our state. The North Carolina job growth, the North Carolina population change, all running above the national average. Job growth, one of the 3 top places in the South over the last few years. We bounced back from COVID quick. This is one of the states that Utah and Idaho never lost net jobs. North Carolina was one of that small group of states that bounced back in early 22 and got ahead of the game again. But like a lot of places, we still have more jobs than we have people. So we're growing quite a bit. We're bringing a lot of people in the state, but that gap between job openings and hires is what we're leaving on the table in our state. And I'm not showing you a lot of economic data today, but unemployment's at record lows, participation rates are at record highs. We just don't have enough people for all the jobs that we have right now. And quit rates have come back down, so everybody's not jumping around on jobs like they were a few years ago. So we're still a state that needs more in-migration to fill the jobs that we have. We've been doing better. If you look at the number of people moving into the state, it continues to build. We are one of the preferred states, top 10 every year for more people wanting to move in. More people moved from Florida, I believe, than any place other than the Carolinas last year. More people moved South Carolina, North Carolina around here a lot, but past that, people half-backing their way up from Florida seem to be the new trend. Tech continues to play an oversized role in the North Carolina economy. When you look at the recovery, so the last 5 years through the pandemic and out, transportation and warehousing is #1 in almost every state. We changed the world in logistics in the last few years, but in North Carolina, tech is right behind that. And that's saying a lot, and I'm going to show you today that tech continues to be a terminology that 10 years ago we were pretty sure we knew what it was, and now as I warn you every year, it permeates about every industry more and more. So this year's 10th anniversary results, remember that we have kept the same definition of technology for all 10 years. It's 86 different 6-digit NAICS code. That's the stuff at the bottom of the ad if you're watching television. We keep the separation between energy, tech, environmental, life sciences, and IT the same. And when we get to the occupational codes, we've kept them the same, and that's 85 different occupational codes. So you can argue them. We took them from Tech America's definitions in 2013-14 when we started, and we think the consistency is more important than tinkering with them every year. So they've been the same all these years. We're up to 312,000 tech workers in North Carolina. We topped this year for the first time 30,000 businesses in the tech world, establishments, and 39, almost $40 billion in salaries for technology. Those numbers continue to rise pretty dramatically. If you look 10 years ago at the first report, there were 220,000 tech workers. So we're closing in on 100,000 more workers than just 10 years ago in the technology industry. That's almost a 50% rise. So it has been an amazing decade for technology in North Carolina. If you just index back to 2007, before the Great Recession, you can see that employment is up about 50%. The real GDP coming out of the tech sector is up almost 200%. So you're looking at real gains in efficiencies and output from our technology sector. And then the thing that is always surprising to me is how fragmenting the tech sector is getting. More and more and more companies engaged in it. So we still have some very large companies. You've heard from a bunch of them today, but there are many, many small and not SMEs under 1,000, but in this case, really small businesses under 50 that are in the tech sector filling gaps these days. So the establishment numbers just keep going up. When you look at what's changed from an industry standpoint, a lot more computer systems design services, a lot more computer programming, tons more software publishers, all within the last 10 years. That's the change number. So think about that. There are 3,400 more software companies than there were just 10 years ago. If you look at what's going to predict to happen in the future, this is the best part about today. I don't have to do predictions. I usually do. Today I just tell you what happened, and I'm usually right about what happened back then. We think the future is even brighter. North Carolina seems to be separating itself from a lot of the country and the other southern states as a growth area for technology, so we're predicting that that gap continues to rise. When you look at multipliers, so economists look at what a job impacts other jobs, and I'll give you a real secret here. The higher the incomes of the job, the higher the multiplier. It's not all that hard. If you make a lot of money doing something, you spend a lot of money, and that influences everything around you. Technology jobs pay well, and there's some of the highest ripples in the state. So when we put all that together, you end up with 21% of the North Carolina economy, either direct or indirectly, result of the tech sector. That was 18% 10 years ago. It keeps going up. It's within a couple percentage points of getting to 22. So continued growth in its overall contribution. We split it up every year to tell you what's going on inside the energy tech. At the back of the report or the back of the web page, you can see exactly what's included in this. We're transparent with all of the data, so you can look at it and take it apart yourself. There's nothing hidden behind it. Over the last year, energy tech is up. Environmental tech, which includes batteries and some other things that we think will grow in the next few years, is down somewhat. But big years for life science and IT, both 8% growth in the last year. And if you look over the last 5 years, life science overall, 32% jump in number of jobs. That's huge. And then overall for tech, it's been a 20% jump over the last 5 years. One of the takeaways here is almost all of that has come from technology services, not technology manufacturing. If you look over the last 5 years, it's been a gain of only 1.5%. If you go back 10 years, we had 64,000 tech manufacturing jobs then. We have 65 now. Now we're producing a lot more output because there's a lot more efficiency in the manufacturing sector, but the job count numbers have not gone up dramatically. A lot of big announcements in 2023 that won't come online until 2025 in North Carolina, so maybe some of that manufacturing number will jump, but that's something to watch over time, is the service versus manufacturing. When you look at wages, we adjust them for cost of living. North Carolina still is a little bit lower than the national average, so a bargain if you're a tech person, a little bit lower if you're a tech employee. Decide which way you want that. I think it's interesting that the manufacturing and the service jobs are about the same wages overall, and these are wage and benefits. That's what earnings are. So everything that an employer pays you, still pretty close to the national average. That gap has been closing over the years. We can break this down. These are those big clumps, but we can pull it down to some super sub-industries. And you can see that software over the last 5 years is up 43%. R&D and testing with 40,000 workers in North Carolina is up over almost 50%. Big jumps also in life science manufacturing, so that's the one piece of the manufacturing sector. Now, some of you are old enough to go back to, we used to make mainframes and we used to make cell phones in North Carolina at one time. So we've gone through all the stages of manufacturing in the state. Now we make fewer things, but they're a little bit deeper in the way that they're concentrated in the state. I want you to pay attention to this chart because I'm going to show you one in a minute that contrasts this. This is the parts of the state that have high concentration of technology industries. So remember these. If you're an industry, if you're IBM, which we haven't talked about today, so I'll pick on them since I don't. If you're IBM, you're in the industry, even if you're the groundskeeper. If you're in Belks and you're a software, you're not in the industry, you're in retail, but you're in the occupation. So everybody keep that in mind. So this is the tech concentration in North Carolina. Good news from an industry standpoint, we're top 10 again in growth. You can see percentage-wise who's at the top over there. Nevada is number 1 this year. Maine, which we have a ongoing, anybody from Maine? Maine's one of the weirdest things in the world when we get to this data point. Everybody from Boston's running up to Maine to work, so you get all this Maine stuff. But Washington, the two that jump out for me are Tennessee and Florida, which didn't used to be tech states and are now southern tech states and good competitors. They're growing as fast as North Carolina overall in their economy. Their tech growth is up there with ours also. So it's a little different in the South. It used to be that Georgia was the state that we competed with the most for tech jobs, and now that's spread out a little in the South. This is what it looks like on a map for you. So you can see Maine up there being Maine, and then Tennessee, I don't know. I went to Bar Harbor last year. I was there the first week of October. Everybody was closing down for the year. We'll see you in the spring. I don't know how you run tech companies like that, but so be it. And then the Intermountain West, where on every map we do in the economy, that big chunk of area between the Rockies and the Cascades growing very fast all over the country. So once again, Brooks, drum roll. We have been first or second in women in technology every year. I think we've done this. Now, Maine, I believe, was number 1 last year and had dropped to 4th. So everybody running up there to go to work must be a dude. I don't know what happened this year. But North Carolina back. So we're real proud of that. And not only that women in tech, but women in tech leadership in North Carolina is an amazing thing. And you got to see a bunch of them on the stage today. We've done a great job with that as a state. Diversity, not as great. And I've been reporting this every year. We're in the middle. I'd love to be closer to the top, but we still haven't figured out in North Carolina how to engage all of our citizens in the tech industry. If you look at the end of the report, there's rankings for a whole bunch of different things. Most of them are good. Some of them are middling. And there's 30 or 40 of them, and you can take your time and look through all of them when you get to page, 63 or something of the report. The other storyline is the occupations. So we have 312,000 people who work in the tech industry. We have 415,000 who have a technology job. And only just over a third of the tech occupations are actually in the tech industry. So 2/3 of them are working for some other industry. And so when you start thinking about, what's going on with this kind of layoff or that kind of trend, part of it is about tech industry, but a bunch of it is about what you as a person can do with your skills. So over the last 5 years, we've grown our industry in North Carolina by 20%, but the occupations of tech workers is close to a 30% jump. So what that tells me is that many of our other industries are deepening their technology dependence. And if you look at that, remember the map I told you to think about? These are the same numbers, same percentages. This is where tech workers are at that density level. And they're scattered all over the state. In fact, if you look at where we were in 16 versus where we are in 22, technology workers have permeated just about every major industry in the state, which takes the technology sector from being important to a few places to being that training, those technical skills being important to almost the whole state. Small slides, I know, sorry to put that up there, but within the report, it tells you where those tech workers are concentrated. That one in the middle circle there is finance. So you're sitting in the middle of Charlotte, you know what the financial industry does here. And when you start looking at that, or you go in the triangle and look at MetLife or Fidelity or whatever, lots of tech workers buried inside of those other industries. When we look at the occupations, almost a doubling in the last 5 years of software developers, 60% of market research analysts. I don't know how many of you had kids in middle school 5 years ago and they said, what should I study? How many of you told them to be market research analyst? I'm not sure. But hey, down there, financial and investment analyst, a 40% jump. Tech skills are riding their own ticket in many, many industries. And if you look at construction, you look at real estate, they're tech workers. And so, as I've kidded Brooks for the last 5 years, at some point we won't be able to do this because everybody will be a tech worker. And I may be retired by then, who knows. Thought I'd just show you a couple of the occupation things that are startling. Net growth, software, 27,000 net new software developers in the last 5 years in North Carolina. That's crazy. Now, on the other side, I don't know how many aerospace engineers were here from a percent standpoint, but a bunch of jumps there too. So I think a lot of those in the triad, as a matter of fact. So we're looking all around the states at the industries that are driving that, and you're seeing more and more technology workers in those industries. Just like the industry stuff, there's a whole bunch of occupational things that look at the whole country. One of the great things about tech workers is their turnover rate is low. People like their jobs by and large, and so we have very low turnover rates. Healthcare, lawyers, librarians, and tech workers. Y'all are all doing fine, thank you. Just enjoy it. If you're down at the bottom end of that, you're turning over multiple times a year, and so work hard to get those workers because they'll typically stay with you. When we look at demography in those occupations, again, a strong female presence, but not as much on the diversity still. It's still something that is a long-time goal of NC Tech back when they were in CETA and before that, and it's still a challenge in North Carolina. So it's something that gives us room for improvement as we go forward. If you look at the job change numbers for occupations, 6th best in the country. Utah and Nevada still up near the top. There's Florida and Georgia up there also, and Tennessee and Texas. So a lot of southern states deepening their technology needs in multiple sectors. It looks like that again. So the South looks about the same with Georgia added. The Intermountain West looks about the same, and we throw Texas in because of mostly all the energy technology jobs that are there in oil and gas. If you look at earnings, we're 10th now. We used to be in the teens. So continue to move up the value chain in North Carolina. If we want to fill that gap before, we've got to figure out how to deal with the prospective workers being afraid of technology. They got to take that 9th grade algebra class that they're afraid of. They've got to realize that once they get past all of that, that it may not take a college degree. In the tech sector, there's a lot of people not making you check that box anymore. If you can do the job, you can do the job. But that means that there's a lot of career awareness that we have to do both with parents and students as we go forward. We continue to produce a lot of people. There's a trend in there with a little dip, and that's COVID related. So that looks like that in a lot of states, but continuing to put out a lot of computer and information science engineers and bioscience, which is what our state needs. So it's good response from our universities. We ranked 5th in the country this year in terms of the percent growth in our STEM completers out of schools. Another great statistic because we're trying to feed that pipeline. We keep about half the people who complete from STEM in North Carolina. Some go back to their to another state. A lot of young people. I was just left. I was in Nebraska this morning, and they're looking at numbers that are 70% leaving or more. And North Carolina is a great place for opportunity, but kids do what they do. So trying to root them here, more internships, more apprenticeships. That's what all states are trying to do. Our universities continue to be ranked in the top 10, this year 3rd in startups coming out of the R&D that's there. When we look at R&D, we rank 14th overall in total R&D, 5th for academic R&D. Our state doesn't fund as much as some other states do. And the federal government here is not a huge funder of R&D in the state, and that's one of the reasons we're a little bit lower on there than we could be. Venture capital, 12th this time. But going up, we've consistently added more venture capital. A lot of people have over time, but we're the pink bar there, and you can see consistently attracting more venture money to the state. If you look at broadband, we still don't do as well in our rural areas, and this is access to affordable broadband. Part of it is running the lines, part of it is getting people to pay the money, and try to understand that. So we want to make sure that we keep our rural counties in mind when we're looking at that. We have moved up into the middle of house burden. Our house prices jumped pretty dramatically in some parts of the state. We have always been affordable, but it is something that if you're in Charlotte or Wake County or if you're in Wilmington, you're looking at those house prices because that changes what you have to pay to get people to move here. And so that's an area that we want to keep a close eye on. Home values have narrowed. We used to have a big gap in U.S. average versus North Carolina average, and that has narrowed over the years. Great if you own the house and paid off your debt. Now you've got wealth that you've built in it, but it becomes harder and harder for young people. So at the end of the report, lots of different rankings. Look at all of them. Some of them not as good, a whole bunch of them, though, in the top 15, which is where we want to try to remain as we go forward. We do look at monthly postings, and they have come down. As y'all know, 2023 was a year where it wasn't as red hot as it was before that. I guess I'm supposed to say generative AI so I can be up here on the stage with everybody else. So, but if you look at AI postings or cyber postings, a little cooler last year than it was the year before, and you've seen all the reports out of Wall Street in the last week. You shed jobs to raise profits, and next thing you know, you'll go through the cycle again. So I don't think this is long term. It is the 10th year. I think 9 of the 10 years I've had nothing but good things to say. One year we were in a global pandemic and depression, so I guess that was okay. And we were on TV doing this, so it was all good. So I appreciate the partnership we've had, Brooks, all these years, and I hope we can continue to do it in the future. Thank you.